Off you go.
Oh, I got one arm in and one arm out, and I forgot to put self tanner on my armpit, and my hands. So let's get tribal.
Let's get
Welcome to.
tribal.
So I have a really special guest today. It's not only a guest, but this is also a guest host because while Carson might be out having fun, I'm over here getting really confused, but I'm trying my best to just make this happen today. But someone was like, this was really hard to follow with all those choppy edits. I did those edits, and I'm really proud of myself because I was struggling. It took me 2 days just to upload it. And of course, because Carson was busy last week, and I'm like, Carson, what am I doing wrong? Is my internet this bad or what's going? He's like, no, you weren't supposed to do this, that, and the other. So you know what? I'm just praying that we get through the episode. Welcome, everybody. So I have one of my good friends joining me, and that good friend is Reed Kelly. Reed Kelly is from
Hey.
San Juan del Sur, the Blood versus Water season 29. And honestly, Reed is somebody that I look up to, think is a wonderful person. I was a little intimidated by him. I was, because he is not only just so beautiful and muscular, and his body is
What?
just, yes, it's true. In that, seeing him in person, I'm not kidding you. He has that, and I know this is not all about bodies and looks, but I was like, when I saw his body, I was like, it literally looks like a work of art. It's true, Reed. Like,
Thanks.
it does. Like, where, you know how, like, you go and you see, like, on Instagram or you see on social media where people, it's like, it's all filter or it's all, no, his body looks like a mold of some figure.
Carolyn, seeing me in person, what I am is what you get. I don't know. It kind of is what it is. But that being said, that's a byproduct of what I do. I've been a Broadway performer for years. I'm a professional acrobat. So, like, my life and my dual partner's life literally depends on the strength and shape of my body. So, I take it seriously and then, put out thirst traps along the way because, hey, why not? What's up, everybody? Let's get tribal.
You were known as like the feisty one, the sassy one, the like, no, you didn't. You had the wicked stepmother speech. So like you were someone I was a little intimidated by.
My whole thing was when Carolyn's season first started airing or they announced the cast list, I was like, oh my God, she's from Minnesota. And then I was looking, I was like, wait, this is my dad and her dad. They go
Yeah.
back and back and back. Oh my God, this is literally, I know who this person is. So I was like, all right, whatever. I never do this, but I'm going to reach out to Carolyn. I'm going to slide into her DMs. And I was like, hey, girl, I don't know if you know me. This is really weird. Our dads are friends. They go back
I
years
knew
and
you were.
years. And the message I got back from you was so cute. It was like, yes, I know exactly who you are. From that point forward, it was like 0 to 100.
The Traitors is going to be airing in January 9th. We just got the premiere date, which I'm
Yeah.
super excited, way nervous, but whatever. But Reed helped me so much with my clothes and like I don't know how to dress. So like
It was
thankfully
fun. We
Reed.
had a good time. It was really great. And yeah, I think we pulled together some really fun looks. I'm really excited for everyone to see it. And it's, I don't know. I just think everything we pulled together kind of encapsulates different facets of who you are. And I'm excited for things to start airing.
But this
Yeah.
was way more fun than like picking out Survivor. Like I honestly, and I way overpicked because someone had said to me like when you go out on Survivor, I think it was Voce from 41 had said, don't give them a ton of options for your clothing because they're going to pick the stuff that you don't want. Well, I didn't listen to
Absolutely.
that. The only thing that they picked that I wanted was my overalls.
We actually got into kind of a back and forth about my underwear because they kept wanting to pick underwear that were like strictly cotton. And I'm like, we're
Gross.
dudes, and like you're gonna be out there, and 2 days in, these underwear are gonna be all stretched out. Things are gonna be flopping everywhere, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And so that was actually a point of contention for us on my season, where I was like, I need something with some support. So it all worked out. They were great in the end. I want to know what your thoughts are, just kind of in general, on the premise of losing your vote in the game of Survivor, because I have thoughts, and I want to know what yours are.
course you do. So I know, and I know a lot of people are like, stop doing this. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating even when, yes, the losing your vote, separating the tribes, having, because they did this our season. They've been doing this for a while now where they separated out here. You're with the group who votes. And I remember even when I was playing like that, it felt like the game did not actually start at merge until after that crap was all done. Because it's like, even though there were times, yes, I mean, I wasn't even at how many tribals, like the first, the second, wasn't even at them, just was, like watching. And it's like, we're not even playing the game because when you're voting, you're a part of it. You're playing the game.
Yeah.
This is what I've believed from day one, and Jeff says this too, that the players make the season. So it's like, this stuff isn't necessary. It's not. It just takes away from, it's just more added time, and now they got to go on the journey and earn their vote. And I'm like, what the heck are they doing? Playing cards? What is this? And it's just not necessary. Let the players just play. That's what's interesting. Not like we're gonna throw one in there where they can't vote. Just let them play.
I think I definitely agree with you on that, as having, we both played the game, and so it's kind of like, I feel like it takes away a lot of agency from the players, because like if you don't have a vote, suddenly you're in a lot of ways worthless. So people may be less inclined to work with you, or they're kind of like, let's target them because they're an easy target. I get that it adds like another layer of social dynamics to the game, where it's like, if you don't have a vote, do you have close enough relationships with people where they're going to protect you or respect you enough to keep you on? So like, I get that there's layers to it, but I do miss a little bit of the like for instance, when I was playing, because that was 10 years ago now, we didn't have that particular thing. So I guess I'm the end of the old era. I'm kind of around the end of the old era, whatever. But like we did voting blocks in my season, which was a very new age, new era thing. But we didn't have votes missing. And so you could kind of strategize where you're like, okay, if I do this, this, and this, I can be with this group of people and maybe progress forward this way. Or if I do this, this, and this, I can progress forward that way. But when you have something that just completely takes away all your power, it kind of takes away your ability to actually strategize. It feels more like playing checkers than playing chess. Because rather than thinking like 5 moves in advance, you can only think maybe 1 move in advance. I don't know. They're just 2 completely different play styles. So I get maybe the appeal of it, but I don't think it's my preference.
What is the appeal to it? Because I truly don't think it makes, I think, okay, I hear Jeff when he says that the show has been on for so long that they almost have to make these changes to keep people on their toe. They have to like change it a little bit, but it's like, do you?
Yeah, and I hear that, like, they've done a lot of seasons, and I get keeping it interesting and keeping it fresh. We'll see if it sticks around. I don't know, because I'm not exactly sure. Like, from what I've seen online, and I don't spend a lot of time online anymore, but the reviews are definitely mixed on this. So I don't know. We'll kind of see what happens. But I think it keeps the players thinking more immediately because they have to. They can't plan far in advance, and it keeps them on their toes, so to speak, and it also keeps the audience being like, well, what's going to happen? So I think it keeps things a lot more live, maybe, rather than people being able to plan stuff. But I think in a game of strategy, I like to see the planning, like someone being like, I'm thinking this vote and how this vote is going to affect that vote and how this is going to get me to the end. And I kind of like to see those kind of players. And I feel like people who play like that don't get the opportunity to really do that. However, Survivor is about adaptability. So the good players are the ones that are adaptable. But that being said, again, I'll preface it with, if you're adaptable and suddenly you get switched into a group that's 5 people, them, 1 you, and you don't have a vote, like, had Rachel not been given that gift of, tribal with no power or whatever it is, and she got to leave tribal, she'd be gone. And it was like, okay, the Survivor gods happened to smile on her in that moment, but it's like, she had no agency because had she had a vote, and this is not last episode, but the episode before, she would have potentially been able to maybe work the cracks in those alliances, maybe. But when you don't have a vote, you can't do that. So she was lucky she had that thing where she's like, peace, I'm out, I'm going to leave, you know? But had that not happened, like, it would have just been like, bye.
Even
So
from like an entertainment, like I'm sorry, I'm watching the show and I want to be entertained. Is this entertaining to take the vote away? I'm serious. Like, is
is
what
it to
is
you? Do you find it entertaining? I guess that's the question. You personally,
I don't. I would rather watch the people kind of navigate this. That's that. You know what I'm saying? That's like not your vote's taken away. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't.
I think I'm with you on that. I'd rather see the people and the dynamics happen rather, or work the dynamics rather than the dynamics happening to them and them having to be reactive to it. So,
It's
with
kind
that
of
being
like
said, it is we are where we are, and just like the country, we move forward with the changes taking place and adapt.
no,
On
thank you for
that
that.
note, how did you feel about the challenge?
Girl, do you know who you're talking to? Do you know who you girl? What was it again?
Uh huh. Okay, so
Hold on, what was the challenge again?
let's talk about
Yeah. So Kyle.
it became important. It is a thing.
Okay, okay, sorry. Let's talk about challenges because I love Reed, you know you were quite the challenge beast on your season where you
Yeah,
did.
and that's the thing is like that was one of the reasons I wanted to be on Survivor. Gameplay aside, like I was like, I want to do these challenges. However, when you get out there
Same.
and you're not really eating and you're exhausted and you're like, you're gonna dive off this thing and swim 100 feet and climb up this thing, I was like, I'm gonna die if I dive off this right now. So the challenges are slightly less fun than I anticipated them to be. But that being said, I don't know. I was running on sheer adrenaline. When Jeff said go, it was just like redlining adrenaline the entire time.
I had none. I had none. And it was never even like dig deep. And I was like, am I
We
done
cut to
yet?
you being caught in the net screaming because that will
Yes.
forever be what.
Every single time. I just didn't have it in me. Like, call it what it is. Like, get me a scissor and get me out.
It's so hard. It
I
really
don't
is.
have that adrenaline like I maybe because you are you're a performer. You are very type A and amazing at everything that you do.
Failure, yes.
Are you not like Reed? You are that type of person who is just great at everything. You are like the jack of all trades, but good at it all. Yes, you are. You're one of those people.
That's very generous of you.
It's
I
true.
I do feel like I don't know, like the challenges are super fun. I think the challenge that we did going through what was really interesting and I want to talk about the one particular challenge where you get to the end, you're holding onto the wall, you move down your feet down the wall. It's always been a challenge that I've wanted to try. But here's the thing, and this is my beef with this because I did a challenge where we were perched on a ledge and it was god awful and thank god I won. But I have a problem with this particular challenge because I feel like,
Is that the spit one where
yeah, I spit and then Natalie spit all over herself. Bless. That's quality TV right there.
oh my god.
Every time I watch this particular challenge, though, that they did, so everyone who made it to the challenge, it was what, the three guys and Teeny? Yeah, made it through. I just feel like I want someone to explain this to me how scientifically it is, or maybe it's not, and that's the point. Because when you're bigger, let's say you're a big guy with a big foot, you're super tall, and you're standing on that little platform, you have less surface area per your
Ooh.
size to balance on versus somebody with like a tiny foot who weighs, at this point 110 pounds after starving for all this time. I feel like I'm always like, in this one particular challenge, I feel like a lot of times girls have an advantage on this or smaller people. I don't know. It's interesting. But, that being said, it was three guys and Teeny at that point. So, but Kyle did not win. And he's had
Kyle.
three consecutive wins back to back to back, which good on him. That's awesome. Like wearing that bat three times in a row.
So when we come down to this vote, though, how in the heck does this make sense that they don't go for Kyle then? Why Saul? For what? That made no sense. And I know that it got sloppy and everyone's just scared towards the end and it's trying to get switched around and it's up and down and people don't know what the vote's going to be until they get there. And then I think, who was it who said something at Tribal about how this is just noise, don't listen to the noise, and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then they all vote unanimously?
Yeah, I think it's that you go into tribal, you go into tribal with what you think is the plan and you hope you're on the right side of the numbers. And then things get weird, people panic, and all of a sudden Saul was like, vote Sue. And I feel like he had an inkling that it was coming and he was doing anything he could in a last ditch effort to kind of save himself. But that's why, I don't know, we won't really know why it didn't end up being Kyle after so people were so specific on that, because there's only so much that they can show. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's where I have a hard time speculating. But we do know that Andy had wanted to keep Saul around, had wanted
Yes,
to work with
Andy.
him. But I have to give mad props to Genevieve because she orchestrated like a really big play. And it, from an audience perspective, it didn't look like it was going to happen. And having been in an experience where I've orchestrated a very, very big vote and trying to herd the cats to get everyone to vote the way you want, and then mine was ruined at the very end. But Genevieve's pulled through. And so there's a lot of noise, and she was able to break through the noise, and everyone still stayed together. So that's a testament to, I think, her relationship with people.
But I didn't think everybody. How did it? Because that was correct. Wasn't that a unanimous vote? How? That's what I'm saying. What did then with the whispers happening? Then all of a sudden everyone got scared, or what?
Panic. You know what it's like, panic. Somebody says something and all of a sudden you start second guessing yourself because you're like, wait, I thought the plan was Saul. What do you mean Sue? And then somebody says Sue, and then somebody says Kyle, and who are you voting for? And then what I love is that all of this is happening and Jeff continues to ask questions. And so everyone has to have split focus of like, I'm talking right now and I'm answering Jeff's question, but I'd rather be involved in what's going on behind me. And I think it's actually really good because Jeff always says, this is your tribal. We can do whatever, we can do whatever you want. But he continues to pepper people with questions. So they have to split their focus, and it makes it messy.
It's hard. And I want to, I know I've said this before, but it's because we have such super fans now, and I don't care. I miss this about old school Survivor when people were we're not necessarily fighting but just actually being real at Tribal Council. I appreciate that. We just don't get that as much anymore. And even being out there, good, I'll say it, it's very much everyone front row and center, Jeff, call on me, and all. And it's so just fakey. It is, and it's and I've said this, where people are just practicing their analogies and what's the cutest thing I can say for Jeff? You know what I'm talking about, Reed. It's different than actually people. And I know that you don't go to Tribal and you're not going to say the exact plan, or you're not. So you're going to, twist it and make, but it's just so manufactured sometimes and so good.
But the thing is that the thing I think that audiences need to remember is that Tribal Council is theater. And it is your chance to pitch your narrative to the people that you're with, to reinforce the fact that you're with them, to signal to other people, no, we're still good, stick to the plan. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes theater goes awry. But Jeff does things to try and stir the pot. But Tribal Council isn't about answering honestly in any sense of the word. It's about, okay, I'm going to answer Jeff's question, but in a way that signals to the people I need to either reinforce my story or reinforce my lie. So I don't know. It's interesting because...
You know what I mean, though? People can still do that in a way that's not hi.
Do you feel like it's that? It feels like that to you?
Yes.
I don't know. I was on a season where half the people on my season weren't really initially signed up to be on Survivor or weren't followers of Survivor because it was blood versus water. So you had people who were fans of the show and then they had to bring on a loved one. And so I was playing with a lot of people that didn't really know the game. Like we had to explain what splitting votes was on my season to people. Like it was hard. And Jeff Probst, I love him. He kept saying to us before the game and during the game, he was like, you have to come out here and play like it's your second time. Everyone always regrets that they didn't play harder or that they didn't do more. So play like it's your second time. Play like it's your second time. And then at one point during Tribal, I was like, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And I'm out here playing like it's my second time. And he goes, but it's your first time. So why would you be playing like it's your second? It's not your second time. And I was like, what? You've been telling us this whole time. I can't help it that half the people here don't want to play like it's their second time. So that was something that I experienced where I was like, I was out there to play hard. And on my season, it was difficult to do that because not everyone really. Yeah, I'd like a happy medium. I would like to play with people who understand the game and are there to play and strategize and whatever without being, I guess, too performative, like you're saying. So,
You know what I'm saying, Reed, where it's just like, let's see, like, I want to see some emotions. I want to see some people being like, I know that you have to like put on an act at times, and I honestly, for myself, I would get lost in it a lot of the time, where I would be like, then I would get fooled by what other people were saying and then start believing it, or be like, oh my gosh, I thought we had this other plan. Now they're saying that. And then I'd have to tell my brain that, like, no, they're just saying that, but the plan is really this. It messes with you. It's hard.
it's a really complicated game. And the thing that people need to remember is you are so deprived out there. Your brain is not functioning at capacity.
No.
Anytime you see people sitting on the sand, drawing out what the votes are, or using shells, like you have 3 shells and 4 shells, it's because we're so like handicapped at that point from lack of glucose to our brains. That's
It's
what you
true.
really need to like write things down in order to keep track of strategy. So that's the thing that I'm always like, y'all, it is really hard. We may look perky and happy and fighting at challenges,
Oh.
but like it's really difficult.
I had no energy, no strength, nothing. It's the truth. I even walking up and down the beach,
God.
it becomes so hard to do. And like day one, you're so excited to like go and do your confessionals. And we would even like take note of who so and so got another confessional. Haven't they been called twice? It gets to a point where you're like, no, I don't want to have to take the walk and go
And it's
all the way down the
always
beach.
so far away.
No.
I have to walk a mile right now to go do this. It's bad. I always liken it to,
True.
you know, those dreams where you're like walking, but you're like stuck in mud or
Yes.
something. Like that's how it feels. It's
It's
that
horrible.
constantly.
It's horrible.
Here's my question for you, I guess, in
And
kind of
I
going
can get
back to
host
this
too.
episode, is Sam really got blindsided pretty hard. And I feel like he's salty about it. And I feel like he's really salty about it because Andy turned on him. And I feel like Sam and Sierra really thought they had Andy figured out. They thought he was just a lapdog that they could, lead around. And
Yep.
he turned around and did something. And I feel like that was a huge blow to Sam's game ego. You know what I'm saying? Sierra is gone, and now he's on the warpath at this point. So I thought that was really interesting to see. It's always interesting to see when somebody gets blindsided and then they're in scramble mode. But I feel like from this past episode, I feel like he's gonna hold on to this. Like this is like he wants to go on a revenge tour. It's
Oh, you think so? But then he's talking to him. So again, this and then none of this delivered. So it's like I want to see Andy actually doing something, not just be there talking about it like he's or am I missing something here? Do you know what I'm
no,
saying?
I
Because
think
yes,
it is a bit of how it. Okay, so when you're out there, you kind of get close to people, and sometimes you might not even be working together, but because you're close to them, like you're closer to them than you are with other people. So there's just like an intimacy there that gets familiar. And I think there might be some of that with Andy and Sam. There might be a little bit of like Stockholm syndrome there too, where like Andy is like attached to Sam in a little bit of a way because I don't know, he was kind of kept by them for so long but maybe there is more intimacy there in like just familiarity that feels comfortable to Andy. Do you know what I'm
so who
saying?
are
Because
you
everything
rooting
is so
for?
unfamiliar. Huh?
Who are you rooting for them? Are you Team Sam or Team Andy?
No, that's what's so hard is like, honestly, I'm kind of team neither at this point because I think not in a bad way, like I'm
Yeah.
neutral on them, but I feel like the people that I'm really enjoying to see where their arc and their narrative goes is Genevieve and Rachel, I think, are really captivating in this way. And it's interesting because if I were to liken Genevieve to someone else, it would be like a Kim Spradling kind of player where it feels like she has her finger on the pulse of what's going on. She's not always like, ta-da, I'm at the front of everything. Like
Yeah.
people seem to kind of come back to her. And so she's kind of working her angles, which I really appreciate about that. Rachel is making smart moves. I think the way that she used her shot in the dark was brilliant.
Oh, that was cool.
Used it as a gut check. It wasn't this episode, it was the one before, but we kind of got back into it this episode. But she gut checked people. And the second she did that, I was like, that is so smart because you can put it out there. And if people are like, oh, then you play your idol. But she was like, there wasn't really a reaction. And I think that was really, really smart on her part. So I'm enjoying looking forward to seeing kind of where this goes. But I definitely feel like Andy's a big narrator at the moment, and he's a big part of the story currently. So we'll see. It's what they're choosing to show us right now.
And you're
What
saying
about
Rachel,
you?
but Rachel literally, she told
She
me
stepped in
all
it.
that stuff, and she's probably the reason why all of that happened.
Yeah, she stepped in it. And that's where I think it was interesting on Genevieve. If I'm remembering, because I watched this episode last night, it was late at night. I'm in Las Vegas at the moment, not at my house. So everything feels kind of weird. But I think Genevieve made an interesting choice to give Rachel the agency on saying, I'm going to let her decide whether or not to bring Sam in on this. Because I think when you're in a position of power or orchestrating a blindside and you give someone else, you read them in on it, but then also give them a bit of power, they feel even more invested. However, I don't know, like, I would have been like, do not tell Sam. That would have been me. I would have like, do not, this cannot go any farther because
Yeah.
I would have anticipated that Sam would have immediately turned around and um, do exactly what he did. Do exactly what he did. Where's the gasoline? So, but I think it was an interesting choice on Genevieve's part to like kind of extend her that agency to make a decision on her own. So, because I think that engenders a better relationship with Rachel because she's like, hey, I trust you. You make the decision on this. So I think from a strategic standpoint of building relationships, I think that was smart. But from like an overall making my blind side happen, it really could have cost you there. Yeah.
No, it's good though. I'm enjoying the season. I was confused at that vote. How I read it was that was just the safest thing to do after all the chaos that had happened, and that they defaulted to that. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice. It's fine. Okay, so we have to stay on track. So Reed, I feel like this is literally the game bodiest podcast I've ever done. I'm usually like all over emotions and like, this is the most I think I've ever talked about an actual episode.
Because I feel like there was a lot of strategy happening in this episode. And I feel like there was a lot going on, which was nice to see. And it was interesting because I was really excited about, all right, Genevieve is going to get this ball rolling and let's see how this happens. And then Rachel ended up talking to Sam and I was like, that's just throwing a match on kindling. And that's what happened. Everyone exploded in different directions. And from an audience standpoint, that's fun to watch. I find that compelling when people are bopping around and doing stuff and like, where are we at? Where are we at? Let's do this. Because they were like, okay, let's vote out Saul. Let's vote out Kyle. Let's vote out.
Yeah.
Did Sue's name even come up until Tribal?
I can't even remember.
Not that, yeah, there was a lot happening. And so it was kind of like, okay.
Or yes, it did from Sam. Yeah, Sam
The
was
pivot
out there.
Yeah, the pivot from moment to moment is interesting to watch. I feel like when we go into Tribal as an audience member with that kind of energy, it really does leave us wondering what is going to happen. And then when something happens, that was literally like when Teeny was like, well, I'm glad we all just stuck to the plan. I was like, see, that's how you stick to the plan. Well, no matter what happens, I don't care how crazy it gets at Tribal Council, you stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan.
But they did. And so like maybe it was that, is that maybe it just was
yes.
them placating a little bit at tribal and like putting on the performative aspect of we don't know what's going on, but at the end of the day they really did know what was going on because literally it was a clean sweep vote when it was all said and done.
Exactly. So you played in the old school ancient era, and no, I'm kidding. You're the Middle Ages.
Era. I'm sorry, you played in the era with really short seasons, so I don't want to hear it.
What are you considered, the Middle Aged era?
Did it middle aged?
What is
Do you
my voice?
realize that I came in, what did I made it to top 8, and I have been on that island longer than you have, who made it all the way to the end. So,
Doesn't matter. Anyways, Reed, I sound like a frog. So you're season 29. So what?
I think it's old school and new school. It's kind of that.
There's no middle school?
I just I think there should be, because old school, when you go back to early, like it was a different game. It was just different. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I think we were kind of the transition. Like I remember on our season, like worked with Missy and the girls to like get out Jeremy, and we weren't aligned and stuff like that. And so I was like, let's just work together just for this vote. We can go back to not working together, but common enemy. And then the next season after us, I forget what season that was. 30 was that they're like voting blocks. We've invented voting blocks. And I was like, no, like we've been doing this before. We're just not naming it. So I feel like there was at that point already, there was strategy and stuff being utilized that is now considered kind of more new era stuff. So I think we're kind of like a hybrid. But I don't know.
What would you say are the main differences between like your era and the new besides the obvious the days and all that crap? What are
I think you take the days out of it, which I do think makes a really big difference in the game, because I remember, like, I watched this, and this is no shade to you because it is hard regardless. 26 days, forget it. I remember being on day 26 and being like, I want to die. So like I get it. It's so hard. So I think extended days is hard, but I think differences are, when I played versus what's happening now, is there's just so many random things that are out of your control that you just can't plan for. Like we had tribe swaps and that happened. They were still doing tribe swaps when I was playing, but like, and we had idols and all that stuff. We had idol play, but like, all of these secret advantages or advantages that give you extra power or losing your vote and stuff like that, I feel like it takes away sometimes a bit of your agency and ability to plan versus when I played. And so I'm like, if I went back to play again, I think it would be really interesting to play, but you have to think of it far differently, because sometimes there's too many things out there to even calculate. It really becomes about, what are my relationships? Really, you have to rely on relationships, I think, even more so now, because at any given moment, you may lose your vote or get switched over to a group of people and be like, how are my relationships with them? So
let's take a quick little break and then we'll be right back.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm losing my voice. Pre-merge, some days we'd have a break, but it was rare. And merge, it was every single day you had something.
I feel like on those days, things can change. It can be problematic. It actually became a problem for us because someone quit on my season, Julie, and we had, instead of going to tribal, we had a rest day. And in that time, the vote shifted and John and Jacqueline ended up going with the other side. So I think it cuts both ways, but I think part of Survivor, outwit, outplay, outlast, I feel like it's a huge part of the outlast part is just outlasting the environment, the deprivation, the struggle.
A lot of people who've said like, we miss Sassy Jeff. It doesn't seem like we're going to really be getting that back. And it doesn't sound like he wants there to be villains or rivalries or what's your opinion of that?
I don't know. See, on my season, I think, like I once polled my fans and I was like, if I came back for like a season, would I be a hero or a villain? You know what I mean? I know that I would err more on, and everyone was like, you were more like an anti-hero. You were like the person that we were rooting for that was willing to do the things and play the game. And like, that's the thing is like, I'm a happy person. Like I love people. And I think I fall into that happy category that Jeff is talking about. And yes, I'd love to do 50. I would love to come back and play again. But I think it's interesting when you talk about being happy. Like, I'm a happy spirited person in my life and like positive and encouraging of other people. Then you put people out there on an island and they haven't slept, they're not eating, they're bug bitten, they're like freezing in the rain. Like, are you supposed to be skipping down the beach still and being happy? Like, I think it's going to naturally bring out whatever happens because it's so, you're so deprived. And so I think they can try and cast as happy of people as they want, sure, but I think, you put humans in subhuman conditions and it's hard. So it's, I'm not
So are we
exactly sure
reading
what
it wrong? Are we reading
that.
it wrong
Yeah,
about
I'm
this?
not
Because
sure.
the new era is, for the most part, it is. It's like inspiration,
Sure.
motivation, people's backstories. It's very yes, it is.
And I think, like, I get that. Like, I don't know if I necessarily need to see somebody come back who just wants to go out there to cause chaos and be rude or like have their moment of just, you know what I mean? Like, I get that. Like, that maybe they're not trying to cast those type of people.
That be even like because I feel like in the
Who's
past,
known for that? Like, I don't know. Is Russell that? Like, he goes out and like, Russell's been nothing but supportive of me when I was on the show. He was really nice. And
oh really?
yeah, Russell was really nice to me when I was on the show and messaged me and stuff. And so, but like, he's an agent of chaos sometimes for like the sake of chaos's sake. So I'm like, I don't know. Are they trying to step away from agents of chaos that are just out there to wreak havoc on the game? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
You need that though a little bit. So I'm just confused, or are we just reading it wrong? Because, like I said, it is so different from when you watch seasons, the early seasons, and then now it's way different. So I get like wanting people with the positive and growth mindset and but I just maybe I'm reading it wrong because to me it seems very like happy, which is great.
but I mean, is it? I like that Survivor is trying to evolve because when you go back, even when I went on the show, I remember thinking, I don't feel like I've really seen anyone that represents who I am as a queer person that I've seen on the show yet. Like, Richard Hatch, amazing. Like, everyone that had been on the show, they're all kind of like a different note in the chord, but I felt like my specific note hadn't been played yet, but was equally important to the chord. So I like that they're moving away from like the archetype
Yes.
kind of where it's like, okay, you have the mom, you have the dumb jock, you have the like underdog, you have the nerdy guy. Like, that becomes really cookie cutter after a while. So I like that they're trying to evolve past that. And it's hard. It's hard to evolve a show, I think, over so many years. They're gonna make missteps. So I'm really forgiving because I love the show and I want to see it continue. So I'm like, if they make some missteps and they're course correcting, fine. Like, what was it, the Tyler Perry idol, when they were like, we're gonna have this idol, and then the next season was like, well, that didn't work, so we're not doing that again. Like, I get it, it's a misstep. You're experimenting and you're trying stuff, but at the end of the day, I think no matter who you put on the beach, it's going to be compelling if they're there to play the game.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I don't know, like, you have people on this season like Rome who were just like larger than life and blissfully unaware of what was going on around them. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know Rome, but like everything that came out of his mouth, I was just like, God, poor thing. Like, bless,
Love
that's what
it.
you think. But I do feel like, I don't know, the game is always going to be interesting because there's always going to be interpersonal relationships. And so if you're trying to, with it by default, put happier people on there or less grumpy people, like, first of all, I don't know how you find those. Like, I'm like, I don't know, you never know how people are going to be when they haven't eaten in 2 weeks, you
And
know?
I think too, I think it more so is like in previous seasons, I can think of just where it was like who was that one who did Game Changers and she said like was it Wigglesworth where she's like I've been thinking about this for the last 20 years or like
Yeah,
I remember, like, girl. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, replaying it every day in my head. Maybe
Sure.
they just don't want that type of crap. Again, like, I don't know. They don't want, like, the people who, and I'm gonna get them revenge type. I don't.
But that's the thing is like, that was the part of, I think, the statement that kind of confused me, where it was like, they don't want people coming back who feel like they have a score to settle. And I was kind of like, what does that mean? Because anybody who wants to come back on Survivor obviously wants to play the game again, and they want to do maybe better than they did before or play differently than they
Yes.
did before. I am a different person than I was a decade ago. When I was on the show, I was like in a staunchly gay Christian celibate relationship. You know, I've been through so much since then. I've struggled with drug addiction since then. I am now sober 5 years. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm a different person than I was at
Are
that
you
point.
coming out?
Yeah, girl, why not?
Oh
I
my
think it's an
God.
important thing. I'm coming up on my 5 years of being sober, and I'm a different person. And I think that would inform my gameplay differently. And it's really changed my life. Do you know what I'm saying? And I have you to thank for that, because Carolyn, you know this about me, and I've talked to you about it. And I never really came out about this publicly because I was like, I want to make sure that this is here, that it's going to stick, and that it's not going to affect my life or my career, or that people think I'm a risk. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I've been through my stuff. But that's one thing I have to tell you guys who are listening to the podcast is I hadn't really told anyone outside of my inner circle. And Carolyn and I, like, I opened up to her and has just been an incredible support through that. So, all of that being said, thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I didn't think that you were
Thanks,
going to do
girl.
this, and I am so
This was not
grateful.
planned. It just, I don't know. I think it just serves the point is that people coming back later are different people. Like, I'm so different. And I feel like watching you on the show, for example, here's the biggest thing. I was like, literally every time you opened your mouth and said something, I was like, that was going through my head the whole time. I just didn't say it. And I was like, you were like my Patronus. Like, you were out there being the like verbal, like the physical manifestation of my inner dialogue. And so I think if I went back and played again, I would be a lot more transparent with what's really going on in my head, because I feel like I was so afraid, because it was my first time playing, of like being perceived in a certain way, or I need to have everything all together all the time and not let anyone in. I feel like people didn't get to know that side of who I am. But like most of the time I was out there, I was like, oh my God, this is such a mess. And I feel
Yes.
like I'd be way cooler with just being like, yo, I have no idea what's going on right now, but I'm willing to try and figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Because I
Yes.
feel like the audience relates to that, and that's what we all want to see, you know?
I just want to say again that I'm proud of you for saying this, because I forget sometimes, like, I'm such an open book, but that doesn't mean that everybody else is comfortable,
Yeah.
because it is hard to open up and share this stuff, because there is still judgment when it comes to, oh, even what your drug, what did you use, how long?
Yeah.
There's even judgment.
Uh,
Yes. Oh, you smoke crack? Oh,
yeah.
it was just weed? Oh, okay, then you're good. Oh, it was heroin? That's even freakier. So it's
Yeah.
like there's even judgments when it comes to getting sober, but then also what drug you use. So just opening up about it, it's hard to do. And I know for a while I'm like, this is so amazing, and share your story. And so I'm proud of you, because it's not easy to do, because there are so many judgments. So thank you.
It's true, but I also feel like I've always talked about being authentic, and I always want to be authentically who I am. And I say that on my Instagram, and my followers know I'm like, yo, what you see is what you get. And here we are, and I show the goofy and I show whatever, but like I feel like this has been a really personal thing for me, but sharing it can also be really helpful. And it's like I'm a perfectionist. Like you said, I'm a type A personality. I'm highly competitive, but it's usually highly competitive with myself. And I think that's honestly was one of the things that ended up leading to me like self medicating, was because I have such high standards for myself. And that really was like an escape for me of like getting out of my own head. But having been sober now for coming up on 5 years, I'm like, okay, yeah, you just have to live with the grit and live with the like, all right, we're going to feel these things and we're going to figure our way through. And Survivor helped me with that as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, Survivor kind of removed all of my excuses, because once you survive on a beach with a pot and a machete, it's kind of like you're gonna be fine. You know what I'm saying? Once you do a 3 hour immunity challenge of endurance and you're baking in the heat and like whatever, it's like you're fine. You're gonna be fine. And so when it was time and I was like, it's time, I'm gonna get sober. This is gonna be my thing. I was like, you did Survivor. You can do this.
You can
And
do
so
this.
it's really tapping into the person who I really found on that beach of being like, no, we're so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. We
Yes.
just step out and believe it. And so that's why Survivor really changed my life in so many ways, because I was like, you slept in a bed last night, you had breakfast, you have water, girl, get your butt going and like carry on, you're fine. And so I apply that in so many ways to my life. But you being as open as you've been on the show was hugely inspiring to me. And I was like, you know what? Carolyn and I are so similar in so many ways, which is true. And I was just like, yeah, it's inspiring. So I think it's one of those things that if there's anyone out there that's going through this, know that there's a lot of people going through it and that
Yes.
you're not alone and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
I try, and I do. Myself try to share as much and embarrassing stuff too. Obviously I can't talk a ton about the traders, but it's like,
I can't
of
wait.
course I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, if I'm gonna be in this castle and I want to be all polished and cute and like safe, and I'm like, but that's not me. But I did at first, like, I like even like thinking before the show, I was like, I'm gonna be like the proper Carolyn. I'm gonna be like the polished hello, and then I'm like, wait, what? That's not me. Like, you know what I
No
mean?
spoilers. Which Carolyn shows up? That's what we will have to wait and see. But she has cute clothes on. I know that for a fact. And if you don't like her clothes, that's on you because she's got great style.
It was so amazing having you here today, Reed. Your perspective on things is just refreshing, and I love it. And you just added a whole new energy. And I'm just grateful
Thanks
that
for
you're here.
having me, and thanks to everyone who listens to the pod and watches the pod. It's been super fun to be here. Carson, we do in fact miss you. I'm bummed you weren't here for this, but maybe next time. And Carolyn, I'll see you when I come home to Minnesota.
Thank you so much for coming. Thanks, Reed.
Yay!